So one of the challenges as an artist is trying to decide what to use, and sometimes it's what not to use, because we're all guilty of walking into an art shop. It's like walking into a sweetie shop, isn't it? And you're just struck by such a range of materials, and you feel like you've got to buy everything. And the more things you buy, the more pens you have, the more colours you have, the better your art is going to be. But it doesn't work out like that. And what I've tried to do over the years is limit my range of materials. And I think it's important to do that, because if you limit your range of materials, it forces you to be more creative, because you have to kind of work with what you've got. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share some of the things that I use. I'm going to kind of explain my thinking behind why I do not use that many things. And I'm going to start off with the paints. Let me begin with the paints, okay? So these are my watercolours, and they're in just a very ordinary tray. There isn't that many colours. Some of them have seen better days because they get used all the time. And obviously when they disappear, I kind of replace them. But I don't have a huge big range of colours. I've got all my favourite blues, I've got my greens, I've got my browns, I've got my reds, oranges, and I've got my yellows. And I kind of know where they are, and I know exactly how they behave. Because when I'm working on location and I'm teaching a workshop to a group of students, I only try and use 4 or maybe 5 colours. And the idea behind that is, by limiting your palette, you're forcing yourself to maximise that range of colours. So you're having to start using complementary colours. You're mixing them together. You're adding white to neutralise them. And in order for me to help the students with that, I create colour charts for all of my workshops. Now, this is a colour chart that I did a few weeks ago when I was in Germany working with Artist Travel. And this was in Berchtesgaden, so we're doing lots and lots of alpine landscapes. Now, the 4 base colours that I started off with was indigo, Indian yellow, Windsor blue, and Venetian red. So I would have chosen those colours simply because some of the colours I could see on location. Some of them were warm colours as opposed to cold colours. I could combine the two together. There was a range of tonal values that I could achieve. So when you look at the indigo and the yellow, when you mix those together, you get that which is a lovely, deep, rich green, very kind of warm green, which matched so much of the foliage. So rather than trying to find a colour, a base colour like that, you can use 2 original colours and you can link them together. And then when you add white to it, you get this wonderful kind of neutral effect as well. So the white really drops it down. So you're teaching students, or I'm teaching how by adding white, you can get this wonderful negative effect as well, which you can then see on location. So by making these charts, we can look at these colours, we can look at the subject, and we can actually match these colours to what we can see in front of us from these original base colours. And then another chart as well that I've used in a different workshop, also in Berchtesgaden in Germany. We had ultramarine, alizarin crimson or maroon, depending on whether the students had them or not, gold ochre and green gold. Now this shows you the combination of the crimson and the ultramarine mixed with white and how it neutralises. And then this is the ultramarine and the green gold, and again with white. So these are great just for visualising what you can see on location. Now moving on to the pens. Again, the danger could be you end up having a whole range of different pens, different brands, different tip, nib shapes to enable you to what you think will be able to draw loads and loads of different effects, but you don't need them. You really don't need that many. I tend to just go for 4 different thicknesses of nib, ranging from 0.05 through to 0.1, 0.2 and 0.3. And the idea is, by limiting them, you can then vary it by the angle by which you hold it and also the pressure as well. So you're forcing yourself to maximise the effect that you can get with these pens, rather than having a whole range of different brands, all these kind of funky ones with flashing lights and all that kind of stuff. You don't need them. The other thing I do use as well is these uniball ones. These are different because these are water soluble. So with these ones, they're a much, much thicker nib, and you can get, again, different effects with these according to how you hold it and the pressure that you put on. Another range of pens that I use are the Tombow brush pens. Now, when you go on the Tombow website, you'll be confronted by about 140 different colours. You get the grey range and you get all the colours as well. I don't use the coloured ones because they'll get in the way of the watercolour. So I don't use coloured Tombow brush pens alongside watercolour because you're basically using two lots of colour and it gets very, very confusing. If you've got an ultramarine blue watercolour and an ultramarine blue Tombow brush pen, it's like, which one do I use? So I tend to avoid all the colours and just go for the grey value ones because the grey value sits beautifully alongside the colour. And I just use two mid-grey ones, that's the 79 and the 60. So the 60 is like a coal grey, that's a warm grey. I use the two lighter ones, the 89 and the 95, that's like a creamy one, and that's a colder light one. And then I use the black, and they're wonderful because they're dual tipped, fine liner part, and a brushy part. So again, I limit these. And the reason I limit them is because I know exactly how they work. It would be tempting to buy more, but it's going to overcomplicate the process. Now, the thing that I really, really do limit is the brushes, the use of brushes. Because again, you go into an art shop and you're confronted with so many different types. The first ones I just want to talk about are the riggers. Now, these are actually acrylic riggers. And the reason I use acrylic ones is they're much more robust and they hold more water and more paint. So this is about a number 4, which is quite a thick one, holds loads and loads of colour, great for drawing with. And this is a 01, and I use lots and lots of these, and they're great for just line work, for drawing in paint. I also use flats as well. I've got a big flat, a medium flat, and a baby flat for big washes of colour. Now you've got chisel ones, you've got round-headed ones, you've got a whole raft of different brushes. I just don't use them. If I don't use them, there's no point in having them, and there's no point in taking them with you. Because by limiting the range of materials, it forces you to be more creative and to think really hard about the effects that you want to achieve.